a little fun up here. The purpose for having a panel of CEOs is to talk about what does it really take to be a CEO. You know, I'm sure a lot of you in the audience, in terms of thinking about building your own businesses or currently starting to build your own business, et cetera, we know the CEO is a role that, yes, it's obviously the highest level in the company, but the CEO is accountable to like everybody. The board, the investors, the employees, the customers, the partners, the supplier. I mean, it is a tough job. And I thought it would be helpful to actually talk about what does it really take to do this job? And what are the things that maybe you've learned along the way? You heard how Kara actually delivered his hint. I mean, you do everything. So that's the purpose of this panel. I want you to think about your questions because we will indeed leave time also for questions because the purpose of this session is really for you so that you can learn and gain some insight and perspectives. Okay? All right, so with that said, I want to start by introducing the panel. We have first Sandra James. So Sandra is the CEO of PrivateEyes, which is a fantastic name, right? PrivateEyes background checks. And they do exactly what it sounds like. They do background checks and 4506transcripts.com. So she has decades of leadership behind her, has therefore mastered the ability to grow and scale a business. So really look forward to hearing about that. And as a result of the success that she has had and the company has had, she was most recently elected to the board of WBENC, which is the Women Business Enterprise National Council.
Yes.
See, almost good. But she's on their board of directors, and she's actually the leading involved with the Pacific location as well, right?
Yes, for our region. So we certify women-owned businesses across America.
All right, excellent. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have Geetha, who in addition to being a CEO, just a quick side, she's also a newlywed. So let's congratulate Geetha.
Thank you.
But Geetha has close to 20 years of experience in technology. And she's been working with companies both emerging as well as mature. She is currently the founder and CEO of Luminix. You've heard how Kara bootstrapped and then went to angel investing, Luminix, and she'll give us an update, but it's pretty much bootstrapped all the way, which is pretty good. She serves on a board for Dignity Health Foundation as well and is an advisory council member for the Museum of the African Diaspora. She founded Luminix in 2011, and the company basically makes Salesforce available offline with a lot of unique capabilities that really offer the customized mobile experience for mobile users. They have very large customers, including Chevron and Hilton, Kraft, Pfizer, et cetera, and all over the world. So welcome, Geetha.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, at the end, we have Samira Salman. Samira, who actually has flown from New York to participate on this panel. She is the CEO and founder of Salman Solutions, which is an advisory firm that works with family offices and high net worth individuals to make direct investments into companies. She's also the COO of a single family office based in Lancaster and sits on the finance committee of the family's charitable foundation. She also speaks globally on direct investments and fundraisers. She's a professor at LSU Law School and teaches a course that she developed on building your business and your brand. She's also a former corporate tax attorney. So Samira, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start by just asking the women to just give us a little bit of background because it's helpful to, I think, for the audience to understand of the kind of business. I hit it a little bit, but if you might want to add a little bit of color, I'll start with you, Sandra.
Okay, thanks. So I started PrivateEyes. We just celebrated our 19th year in September, so I'm really excited about that. And our core value is to make a safe workplace possible. And I believed that even though it was 1999 and technology was coming about, that it was important to provide customer service with the human touch. So still today, that's what we do. When you call our office between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m., you get a live person on the phone, and our customers across the country really appreciate that because when you have a hiring decision and you have a question about the background check, you need that person to start on Monday. It's Friday at 4. You need some help. So we're here to do that for you. Because of long-term relationships I've had, a large lender that uses our service for background checks asked me to start providing 4506s. So in 2008, when the mortgage crisis happened in America, they decided that there should be a rule that we verify people's income in America. So we get your IRS tax transcript from the IRS, and we verify your Social Security number from the Social Security Administration. So the government is my vendor for that business, and we provide that to mortgage lenders and banks across the United States. And so I had another business before that, mortgage credit reports, and so I've been doing this for almost 3 decades. And I'm still having fun.
Great.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks, first of all, for taking the time to show up here. I know it feels like, in our busy lives to take a whole day off to come listen to people. So I will talk a little bit about Luminix. We started that 7 years ago, and you noticed I said we because that's how I view our team. It doesn't matter that I was the founder, but the team that came to work with me in the very first days are still around. So we are building that. And like Shellye said, it's a bootstrapped company. So when we were starting the company, we talked to a whole bunch of, and I think there's a lesson somewhere for you to take. So we had this grand vision for the company. But before we built anything, we put together a PowerPoint, talked to a lot of people, and quickly it came down to a really pressing need for existing customers of Salesforce, which is having a fantastic mobile experience, and even when you're not connected to the network. So we started building it, and within about 18 months or so, back to back, within a month, we had 3-year contracts, 2 3-year contracts with med device companies. So that was a great sort of stamp saying, hey, not only are we building a product that's relevant, but there are people out there willing to pay for it. And I've pretty much stuck to building the company, growing the company through revenue. It hasn't been easy. It will not be easy, I know that, but it has given me pleasure as well as control. We do team outings every year. We go to a country where all of us are in a big house and sort of getting to know each other and bonding. So things like that, we get to do it without having to, get approval from somebody else. Yeah. So that's, a quick sort of summary of who we are and what we are, and definitely have the customer list to prove our worth and value.
Great. Samira.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So what we do at Salman Solutions is we work at the intersection of private capital and private companies. And we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. I used to be a corporate tax lawyer. I was a deal lawyer. So I was the diligence girl on the Coach USA bus roll-up, which was the largest consolidated roll-up at the time. We used to do structuring for T-Boone Pickens. And I literally woke up one day and I said, I cannot make this my life for the rest of my life. What I didn't know as a tax lawyer, I became a tax lawyer because I wanted to be like Richard Gere in Pretty Woman. I wanted to buy and sell the company. And so I started doing that. And then, but what they didn't tell me was once you've done one of each structure, you're going to keep doing that over and over again for the next 40 years of your life. And I was like, I can't do this. And so I realized the best part of my day was my breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, and dinner meetings where I was talking to people about their businesses or sitting on a board, and I wanted to be able to help a little bit more. So long story short, I started the advisory firm, and at first we just worked with the private companies who were looking to grow, and then we started working with the private investors, and now I work specifically in the high net worth and family office space. And my passion is like when women like Kara come to me and they say, look, I made this thing and I really want to take it to the next level. And what we do is we help them do that. I build the teams per project. I've had different stages where I have a full team that works with me, and sometimes it's just me and I do everything 1099. And a lot of people think that might sound a little bit crazy, but what it allows us to do is always pull the best experts in that field, in that industry at the, for the time. And the thing that is most rewarding for me is when somebody comes to me and said, I made this, can you help me get it to the next level? Or when an investor comes to us and says, we invested in this company and revenues have been declining the last 4 quarters, can you please help us figure out how to do this? And so now, instead of saving Shell Oil Company, hundreds of millions on their tax return, I'm actually helping people bring their businesses to life. And I'm passionate about things like this and, some of the skin cream companies we've done, where you're bringing better products in the world and you're helping investor dollars go farther, longer, faster into really good companies.
So one of the key things when you first get started is you are with an idea and a thought, and it's you and your mirror. And you've got to figure out how you actually get going. And then one of the first steps is, once you have your plan and your idea, et cetera, is actually the team. And that's an area that people struggle. All right, how do you convince people to come work for you when, come work for my company, we have no revenues, no customers, we have no product yet, but it's going to be great. How do you go about building that team and actually getting people to take that risk and join you? Because that's one of the first things you have to go do. So Geetha, I'm going to jump to you because you talked a little bit about team in your overall introduction.
Yeah. So I was smiling because that was basically my pitch. Hey, we're building something, no customers, we have nothing to prove. And also, I always made sure to say, 90% of startups fail. So I'm not promising you we will be rich at the end of this. So I think being authentic and upfront about what it is that we want to do was really helpful for me, because I haven't really paid the first 2 engineers a full salary until like year 2, right? So it's that, I think, authentic friendships in the beginning really helped me.
Yeah. Sandra, how about you?
Well, when I first started my first business, which is what comes up for me, someone lent me $10,000, and I had a small space, and I had one employee that worked with me, and I was like, I just have to build this much. And I was thinking about it this morning, like, what would I do different? And a younger version of myself, I would just hire people, and I would think everybody could do the job. And now I'm always looking for the right skill set for my team. And I'm very fortunate because I have people, my director of operations has been with me 15 years. And so, relationships can be like marriage. You have to work on them, right, all the time. But when you have somebody who complements your skill sets, it makes your job as a founder and CEO so much easier. And so, over the years, I've learned that I needed to have lots of people around me that are very detail-oriented, very process-oriented, and I have a team that have been with me for, most of them have been with me over 5 years now. And so, it's been a process of learning of how to create that team, and then to keep creating the culture that you want them to be in. And our culture is really good today. But it wasn't always. We've had challenges in the past, because we've had years where we've grown, we've had years where we declined, and it's been up and down.
You mean it's not always up
No,
and
it's
down?
not. I'm not having terrorists straight up on the product, but congratulations, I love Hint. So, but it hasn't always been that way. I tell people sometimes it's like the stock market or interest rates. Everything is up and down, right? And so, and I've been fortunate because we're a debt-free company. I've grown it organically. We're profitable, and so I'm really grateful for that. But it's taken years to figure out how to be able to keep it profitable, even when you have declining revenue on some years, because sometimes things change with customers.
Right, and we'll come back to that for a minute. But I think it'd be helpful, Samira, there are different models to building your team. Building your team is not just hiring employees, but as Samira talked about, you can also use a breadth of, whether it's 1099s, bring in the skills as you need it, et cetera. So talk about how you thought about that in terms of structuring your business.
So my company is called Salman Solutions, and at the time I was a lawyer. But on every deal we worked on, there was a lawyer, a CPA, financial advisors. I mean, there was just all these people at the table, and what I realized was the languages that each of these groups speak is different. So my role became that kind of a little bit of trusted advisor, and being able to put all these people together at the table. So when I built my company, I said, look, I want it to be all about strategic collaborations. I want to be able to bring the best professionals to the table and us work together on whatever this project is, and get it to the next level and then move on to the next thing. So that model now I think is pretty accepted. Over 10 years ago, and I was in the South when I was doing this, so over 10 years ago people were like, what are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But what I realized was I was always getting the best of the best. I could hire the right lawyer for this project, and they would perform beautifully because they knew if they didn't, they might not get a chance to perform again. So my mentality always was super serve the client, do what's best for them. So we were able to choose our teams. Through that process, some of those people started forming alliances and working together, and we still work with some of the folks from the early days. But the other beauty of this is if a relationship's not working out and not super serving the client, it's easier to kind of move on from it. Now, you know, my business is unique because we work on shorter term client projects so we can build the team and then exit. And if that team did fantastic, great, we'll put them on some other projects. If not, then we can kind of work through it. But I'm only as effective as my bankers, my lawyers, my CPAs. And so for me, having that wide network and wide range of those skills, and I enjoy it because I get to meet new people, but I also get to work with some of the folks that we have long-term relationships with, and we all refer each other business. But like I said, you know, the great part about it is they're not guaranteed to get another client from me or another project from me. So they're always on their kind of best behavior. And it was a kind of a secret bonus that I didn't even know about. And the other component of it is, you know, I've always done a really good job to maintain good relationships, but I try not to get too close and have these friendship situations, because my best friend always says, you have to cut off the dead tree limb. But there are times when these relationships aren't serving you anymore and you have to move away from them. And I find that the faster you make that decision, the better, because at the end of the day, I'm looking at my client who's not being super served anymore, and I'm the one that referred this certain service provider, and I'm managing that relationship. So I think that you just have to be honest and authentic with yourself and with the other person, and you can, sometimes you move apart, sometimes you move back together, but it doesn't have to be this like dramatic, long drawn out thing.
Absolutely, and I just want to reinforce something that Samira said that Sandra also touched on. The quote that I think to pick up from that is, you're only as good as the team that you surround yourself with. And that's something that it takes some people, some of us, me included, right, longer to figure out in terms of than others. You know, Sandra talked about that in terms of initially just, okay, we just need butts in seats. I just need people doing the work. And then you realize how important it is in terms of the skill set and the background. So I just want to make sure that that point, you know, especially in terms of comes through, because they both hit on it in different ways. Okay, I'm going to ask for audience participation here. How many people are currently building a business? I don't care whether it's part-time, full-time, okay? How many are thinking about it in terms of planning to do it? Yep, a couple, all right. And how many are here as they just want to learn kind of what's involved here as they think about what they might want to do as they go forward? Okay, good, thanks. That just helps in terms of as we focus the conversation. So I want to now kind of move the conversation a little bit to, so what the heck do you actually do? And how do you prioritize your time, given that there is so much to do? Now I'm going to ask you, first round, I want to roll your time clocks back. So for Sandra, you're rolling back almost 30 years, 11 years for you, and 10 years for you, Samira, okay? Roll it back to the beginning. In those first couple of years, you know, where did you spend your time? And how did you think about your time? And then I'm going to ask you now, because I know it's different. All right? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
Okay, so I'll start because, you know, it's decades, right? And so, you know, feisty young Sandra was, you know, I did everything. And so, you know, at the time I would do sales. I loved to make new friends. And so that's probably the favorite part of my job, is making new friends and closing deals and helping people. And then I want someone else to do the implementation. But in the beginning, I would go out and do sales. Remember, I started with one employee. And so I knew I had to build $10,000 a month to pay for my office rent and my employee and myself a salary right away, because I didn't have anything to fall back on. I was single at the time. And so I went, you know, I would do sales during the day, and at night I would do anything that didn't get done during the day. And so I worked all the time. I kind of kept after that model for years. And even though I did build a good team, I still did that model for a long time. And then I threw 2 kids in there. And a marriage into the, you know, and then it was more complicated, right? And the first one slept right away. So then I thought, well, the second one will sleep right away. I'll have it get, if one's easy, 2 will be easy, right? He didn't sleep for like 2 years. So it was like, he sleeps now. He's going to graduate from high school this year. But, you know, that changed things, right? So then I had to reprioritize, and I had to do a different kind of balance. Today, because I have a seasoned team of people that do a fantastic job taking care of our customers, customers. My day looks so different. I'm so fortunate because I was in Washington, D.C. at a conference the last few days, and then I'm able to be here today, and I'm coaching my team and supporting them when they need me, and then I'll be in my office the rest of the week, right? So it looks different at different phases of the business. And you have to just continually monitor that. But having the right people on your team and having them be accountable, which is the best gift you can give your team too, because they really want to be accountable, is really the best thing you can do for your company, is to have people that you can count on, that you know will be there all the time to take care of the customer, and that they've bought into your vision and your dream of what you want to see. It's not always, I'm very driven by numbers, and I like to do more of them, so I always thought everyone was, and everyone's not. And that's what you have to find out with creating the culture, is what is important to the other person on the team, and what will drive them so that they'll stay committed and engaged in your team to provide the service or the product that you promise to your customers.
Right. Geetha.
So my experience is with the tech industry, some things haven't changed, like making coffee or taking the trash out or whatever you need to do, right? And doing accounting, payroll, and reading first drafts of the legal agreements before you send it to the lawyer, because that will save you a little bit of money. So those things never change, right? I still am responsible for doing all of that. But in the beginning, it was product focused. So I'd be at Starbucks the whole day and the whole night, whatever you need to get the product out the door, because I'm also technical. But as things shift, it shifted from product focus to basically business relationships, partnerships, and sales, marketing. Although we still spend $0 on explicit marketing, we're pretty, well known in the ecosystem where we operate. So whoever is reading our case studies, and I work with the person that writes those. So I guess it went from product focused to sales focused, and which still again drives product at the the big deal pending is what drives the features of the product. And some other things that didn't change, the team definitely looks to you for direction and focus and being able to explain and articulate. Sometimes, being a small company, it goes from, hey, we got to get this done end of the week to, oh, forget that, this other huge deal, we got to get this done end of the week. And you can imagine, team would get frustrated if you don't know how to manage that communication and make sure everybody understands that why we're doing. It's not just, my whim for the day that changes that, right? So those are things, I think. And also, I was going to say, early on, if I were invited to an event, I would think, oh my God, that's half a day of my, day, right? But nowadays, I realize showing up here actually is really good for my company. And also being able to share what I've learned with all of you is also doing something good out of that, right? So I think even I can see changing.
So when I practiced tax law, I worked with a gentleman who taught me, if you super serve the client, the money will come and everything else will figure itself out. So when I actually started my business, I focused on that. Get a client, get people to pay you, and then all the other stuff will figure out. So I actually did not have a business card, a website, any of that stuff. I just got somebody to pay me to do what I do. So my business is a little bit different because it's mainly word of mouth. To this day, if you go on my website, it's not really clear what I do or how I do it or whatever, because that's irrelevant for me. So I accidentally learned this lesson, but now I adhere to it more than ever. When I think about how to spend my time, I think about the things that really do make a difference and move the needle, not the things that I think make a difference and move the needle or I think I should be doing. And for me, it's totally transformed the way I work, right? Like sometimes we think we should be answering email, or we need to have a business card, or I must have this bright and shiny website. But I always think through, will me spending time on that activity actually make a difference with my goals and what I'm trying to accomplish with this business? And as such, I accept many speaking engagements because this fills me up and I enjoy it a ton. right? Should I maybe be sitting at my desk answering some emails or doing some other things or maybe working on my website? Sure. But that's not what really drives and fills me. So I gave myself permission early on, leaving the corporate environment, to write my own rules and do things like get my nails done at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. Like, I'm such a rebel, right? But it took me a long time to get comfortable with that. And I think we as women, we do all the things that we think we're supposed to do and not what we really want to do. But when you own your own company, you can literally do what you want to do. And sometimes I work very late, but I like to be in that nail salon, not on the weekend, but on the Monday morning when nobody else is in there and it's quiet, you know, so things like that. And the other thing that I've learned to do through the years is to listen. Listen to my customers, listen to the people around me, because that's always given me my next, what I should be doing next. Very often people see what you should be doing before you see it. And the first, you know, almost 10 years I practiced tax law, people would always respond like this: "You're a tax lawyer?" And I should have probably picked up on that hint, like it was the wrong fit for my life and my career. The funny thing is I've been in the Bay Area since Saturday. At least 8 people have said to me, "You really should move here." And so I'm listening to that, right? I don't really know what it means, but so I think one thing as a CEO, you know, we're so A-type and driven and list and running teams and running projects that we have to take that time to step back and listen and receive, because if not, all we're doing is we're pushing out what we think needs to be pushed out, but we're not getting this piece here. And if I would not have listened, I would be doing my life and my business very differently. I moved from Texas to New York. That's because I listened, and you know, people kept saying, "You need to be up here, you need to be up here." And I could use a bunch of those examples. So really, like, take the time to stop and listen and not always push forward. And believe me, that's very difficult for me, the A-type tax lawyer, 5 planets in Sagittarius, to say, but it really has helped me take my business to levels that I could have never even imagined.
I'm going to add one little asterisk. I completely agree with listening, but I would just say listen from credible sources.
Yes.
Because I can't tell you the number of times people would say to me, "You're the CEO?" So I sure would have.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so they say that for
Very
different
important.
reasons.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so start thinking about your questions. Let's get a little real here. What are you currently struggling with? These jobs are not easy jobs. They're just not. So everybody share something about what are you currently struggling with and how are you dealing with it? So I'm going to switch order here. I'm going to jump in the middle. Geetha, you go, and then I'll move to Samira.
Well, sales and the pipeline pressure, it's never going to go away. So if I say that, you guys will just count that as a complaint you hear from everyone. I'm definitely working on a big partnership that will affect how we as a company will operate. It will be good in the end, but working through the logistics of it is pretty stressful. And like Shellye mentioned, when I started the company, I was single, I had no responsibilities, so I'd work through the whole week and weekend and all that. So being newly married, just, you know, my husband is really very, very kind and understanding, is wonderful. So remembering that he's very important to me, as important is something that I have to actively think about, because you know, I could easily get into, you know, it's 7 p.m. and I still haven't stopped working and we should go for a walk together or something. So that's definitely accommodating all of that. Yeah.
Great.
The thing I'm struggling the most with right now is the balance between the actual work that we do and then the brand that I accidentally created for myself. And so I love to do speaking engagements, but if I do this all the time, then I'm not doing the work that allows me to do this, right? But this brand that I accidentally created has now gotten pretty international. I speak globally. I've had multiple TV requests, and I feel a responsibility, like it's my calling, I know, to help shift money from men to women and minorities. Like, that's why I'm on this planet. okay? So the more that I can be in the space of the women and minorities and teaching and inspiring how to build financial models, how to get funding, how to grow your businesses, like that's my calling. But I also need to be over here doing the actual deals to make sure we're pulling. So I'm having a challenge on how much do I build my brand and how many of these offers do I accept and how much effort and energy do I put into that for it to serve this, right? And I don't know the exact balance because if we wanted to, I could be on a plane every day speaking somewhere and writing a book and being on the TV, right? But that doesn't help me actually do the deals. And so it's something I'm currently I'm meditating on. I'm walking in nature. So if anybody has any good programs for me to go to figure what is the right balance, that's my thing right now.
Sandra.
Well, balance has always been something I struggled with, and I mentioned, I have 2 sons, and one's in college now. I was very sad when he left, but now I'm struggling with getting the other one through high school. He'll graduate in May. I'm confident he'll get there. And so, but I'm struggling at work right now. We slowed down so that we could scale fast. So we needed to change our technology, a few years ago. We started changing it in 2014, and we completed all of our customers to the new platform in 2015. And so that was challenging to get hundreds of customers from one platform to another. But we did that because we listened to our users, both HR and candidates. And so through that process, then we decided to get ISO 27001 certified, GDPR certified. I'm a licensed private investigator in several states. And so we did all of these things that were things, some of my team are FCRA certified FCRA experts. So these are all things that people would say no because we couldn't check the box when we were doing an RFP or when someone gave us a questionnaire about due diligence on us, right? So we did all of those things. And what I'm struggling with now is that I have done 99% of the sales for all of my companies all of these years. And in the last 18 months to 2 years, I've been hiring salespeople. And I'm struggling because, they just, it's just if they're a good salesperson, you're going to hire them, right? That's the first thing. They have to sell you, right? But then sometimes they don't do anything, and I just don't get it because people call me every day, and I close customers every day, even when I'm traveling. And so, and I have a great support team. I mentioned that, and so it's great. But that's one of the challenges that I have is I know that our competitors, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry for background screening, and I know that our competitors have salespeople. But that's my biggest struggle right now, is that, if I continue to close, as I mentioned, we're profitable and debt-free, so life is good. My new motto for this year is revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. But I am a very vain girl, so, we want both, right? And so, but that's my struggle today.
I like that. Revenue's vanity, profitability sanity.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, on that note, questions from the audience. I saw this hand go up first. We have mics. They're all both up front. Oh, you have one in the back. Great. There's another one up front. Aaron.
Hi, my question's for Geetha. You talked about putting your idea in a PowerPoint and talking to different people about it. Who besides potential customers did you talk to, and what did you do, if anything, to protect that idea?
Oh, yeah, that's everyone is worried about talking to other people. I can tell you, not everyone can build and have the grittiness to stick with it, because you can't just steal an idea. You can steal an idea that'll probably just be in their head. That's it, right? So having done this bootstrapping and acquiring clients and everything, it's not a simple thing. So I was not at all worried about it being stolen. It was a real complex technical proposal that we were doing. And it can't be done in a day. It's not a consumer app idea that somebody would have stolen and built their app, right? So there are parameters that you can apply, but also I'd say just shed that fear. I talked to a lot of my friends that I worked with in the past who know technology industry and potential customers. I had an advisory board early on with executives in the industry. So just I would say open your heart and brain, and just know that it's not simple to build companies and recruit people to work on the idea, take it to market. It takes real strength to do all of that.
I will tell you, just to add to that, Silicon Valley is full of people, and I'm sure you guys hear it at cocktail conversation. Oh, I had the idea for such and such and such and such, right? Everybody had all these ideas, but actually executing, Tara talked about she's on a hockey stick. 13 years.
13 years.
Right.
She's now on a hockey stick. I want to make sure people understand. Hers didn't do that either. It did this,
Right.
As it went through, and then you got there. And that's usually how it works. So stick-to-itiveness, perseverance, all of that is just as important as everything else we're talking about today.
Can I add something to what she
Absolutely.
said,
And then
though?
we'll go
Is
to the
that you just be careful of who you choose to talk to about your ideas. I talked to my ex-husband, he ended up competing with me.
Oh.
And so it's a great story because of how life has turned out. It's a great story.
Obviously,
But,
you won.
Yeah.
You
I won. Still, success is the best revenge. But still, it's just whoever's going to listen to you. And sometimes some people that you might want to talk to that are friends, if they don't think about business like you, they might not be as supportive as someone else, so.
Yep, good point. Erin, you have somebody in the back? Right there, I thought I saw a hand.
Hi there, my name is Meena, and this one's particularly for Samira. So when you're a female CEO and you're working on social impact changes in a digital world, how do you approach funding, and what are the tips and tricks? Because when a woman walks as a CEO on a social cause business, it's not easy at all. You get sidelined very easily, just dropped and said, hey, they're just worrying about the world. But how do you take it all the way and make it successful?
Great question.
That's a
Into
great
funding.
question. So first thing first, I've been asked this question so much, I actually filmed a video series to answer it. And I have to remember what the link is. It's on the Watch Her Work website, though. But, and I went through a detailed explanation of this. But this is what I will tell you, okay? I understand that women face a lot of challenges raising funding. I see it every single day in my business. I'm usually the only female on the certain side of the table, okay? But, and this is my big but my invitation for all of us is to build wicked financial models, okay? Build a wicked financial model and know your numbers left and right, backwards and forwards, okay? Men are gonna make comments. They're gonna make all kinds of comments. It's okay. Your job is to stay on that path of raising your funding, okay? They're gonna say something crazy, and you can choose to get all upset and respond and react, or you can kind of brush it off and continue, because at the end of the day, your goal is to get the funding, and you need to do whatever it is to get the funding. Do you mind standing up so I can, yeah. So you need to do whatever it is to get the funding, okay? I almost got booed off a stage once. There were thousands of women in the audience, and I said, so I've been doing this for 20 years, okay? This was like, 10, 15 years ago. I was like, I used to bring 3 old white guys to meetings with me, and people got outraged, okay? Outraged. Guess what? I still got my funding, and I got my deal done, and I grew the company, and now I'm sitting in a place where I can pull other women with me. So the goal is to get the money, and you need to do what you need to do to get the money. The other component is, I had a man once tell me, you really need to do all your business over the phone. And I'm like, really? Why? And he said, because you're so pretty that nobody would believe you're as smart as you are. So I took a minute. I was like, did he just say that to me in my head? And then I looked at him. I said, I'm not getting any dumber, and I'm not getting any uglier. So we're just going to have to figure this out. But my point to you is, I could sit here and tell you in the 20-year career that I've had all the crazy stuff that's been said to me. And guess what? I don't really care. I don't care. And I think as women, I know it's annoying. I know it sucks. But my goal is to get to that end point over there, to sit at the table with the funding. And now I'm there. And if I would have stopped every time everybody said something crazy to me, where would I be right now today? So my point to you is, I know it's hard. Nobody is saying it's easy. But if you choose to be a female entrepreneur in this environment, put on your big girl panties and stay on that path until you've accomplished your goal. Because you will accomplish it if you stay on your path. And especially the sooner you can be wicked about your numbers, That's one thing. I sit on the we are allocating money side with a bunch of men, and guess what? It's not about, oh, I don't want to invest in her because she's a woman. It's, oh, this sounds really interesting, but I can't really figure out the financials and the numbers. I'm making generalized blanket statements. Of course, there are some women that are amazing with numbers, but my invitation to women everywhere is get stronger on your numbers and go in there and they're gonna ask you crazy questions. Go in there and back it up. Make sure you have a Dropbox full of all your data room with all your numbers, because as women, we do more research. We tinker, we know, we understand, we Google. Put all that in a data room. They ask you something, click on your thing and show them where you got it from. And sit in that chair until you get what you want.
Okay. Do we have time for one more, or are we done? One more, okay.
So my question is for.
Oh, wait, here it comes, here it comes.
My question is for Geetha and Samira, because I have two paths going on, right? One is I'm in tech space. You inventing the idea that taking Salesforce offline, and that's incredible, right? I mean, my question is your background, were you working for Salesforce, or were you working, as a consumer of Salesforce and this idea came to mind? And how were you able to say that, hey, this is conflict of interest, that someone's, already, or you work for this company, or, or a consumer, that how are you going to really go about and do this idea and implement this product without having to, generate the conflict of interest?
Right, so I was not working for Salesforce. I was working as a sales engineer, and I saw salespeople sort of struggle to use it. So there was a problem identified, right?
Right.
And as we narrowed the problem down, it was more crystal clear. And you can't really violate, conflicts of interest or patents if the solution does not exist. It's a new idea, right? So that's, I think,
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you. Sure. And Samira, to you, like the business that I'm working on is moving the money from men to women on a personal financial basis. So I think that the financial advisors on a personal, planning for the retirement or kids' college, whatsoever, is most of them are white males out there. Very few women and very few colored women. So my whole goal is I'm working on that. So I want to ask you that, you being on the entrepreneur or the investment side, on the business side, what were some of the challenges that you faced? I know some you said to social impact, that what the previous question I think is very much, but how could you, how some of the challenges that you faced that really break the shackles and I'm going to really do it, because you were an attorney, you went into a different space and did it. So that's where I feel like I'm into tech, but then I want to do something on the financial side. So I'm handling both boards, and I don't know when to really break away from tech and do this.
So that's such a good question. I'm going to give you a very big disclaimer. Do not do what I did. Do not. I want to be very clear. If anybody follows this path, we are not responsible here at Watermark. But I mean, I literally woke up one day and quit my job. Okay, that's a bad idea, but I'm single. It was fine, right? I didn't have little children to feed. But what I will tell you, and I'm going to say, what Kara said earlier too. There has to be a little crazy, but for me, I got to the point in my life and career where I could not live that life anymore. Okay, I was a tax lawyer. I was the vice chairman of an American Bar Association committee. I had this very big girl job, and I was miserable. And I was bringing home a wheelbarrow full of money. I had other Friday off, stock options, blah, blah, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So I got to the breaking point. But what I will tell you is this: if anybody has that little inkling, that little thing, you cannot ignore it. You can suppress it, it'll pop up again. You can suppress it, it'll pop up again. And then at some point, you're gonna have to deal with it. What I did was I literally walked in and quit my job one afternoon, and they were like, you can't quit. I'm like, yes, I can, this whole thing. So I didn't have a really great plan. But what I think is important to do is get a good plan in place. Start socking away money, put at least whatever you think it's gonna take, double it, okay? Make sure that your basic expenses are covered. Use some strategy in this and make sure that you can support yourself while you're figuring it out. But the bottom line is, until you actually quit, you're not gonna have all that energy and fire and time and whatever. So I get that it's a balance, and I get that it's hard, but prepare yourself so when it is time and you get that, I can't do this other thing anymore, you're ready and prepared. I wasn't really prepared. I got very lucky.
Yeah, you can start a company part-time. It is very difficult to build a company that's disrupting, that you are growing part-time. And you won't find a person to put a dime in if you're not fully committed.
Correct.
So that's the piece that I would add to that. And I know we're out of time, but I tell you what, we will be, a number of us in terms of that are here, will be here in terms of during lunch and break, et cetera. So feel free to come up, ask questions. That's part of why we're doing this. I want to thank our panel very much for participating, for coming and spending the time. And thank you very much for your questions and engagement.